Have you ever stared at your phone and wondered, if he really cares about me, why is he so quiet? You replay every conversation. You search for hidden meanings in every text. You convince yourself that if he truly wanted you, he would reach out. But what if the silence you're afraid of isn't the absence of feelings? What if the man you're calling distant is actually fighting a battle inside himself that you can't see? Because sometimes a man doesn't disappear because he feels nothing. Sometimes he disappears because he feels too much. People love to say that if someone wants you, they'll make it obvious. That sounds good. It feels simple. But real life isn't simple, and human emotions aren't neat, especially when it comes to men. A man can love deeply and still pull away. He can miss you every single day and still convince himself not to call. He can think about you every morning and every night while pretending to everyone else that he's perfectly fine. The biggest mistake many women make is assuming that silence always means rejection. It doesn't. Silence often means conflict. A man who feels nothing moves on without hesitation. But a man who is overwhelmed by emotion starts fighting himself. His pride fights his heart. His fear fights his desire. His past fights his future. And somewhere in the middle of that emotional war is you think about the strongest men you've ever met. They know how to solve problems. They know how to build businesses, fix cars, protect families, and survive difficult situations. But when it comes to emotions, many of them were never taught how to handle what they feel. From a young age, they were told to stay tough. Don't cry. Don't look weak. Don't let anyone know what's hurting you. So what happens when a woman walks into his life and suddenly makes him feel vulnerable? He doesn't always know what to do. He may want to hold you closer, but instead he creates distance. Not because he wants to lose you, but because closeness scares him more than loneliness. That's the part many people never understand. Love doesn't just create happiness. Love creates risk. The moment someone matters to you, they gain the power to hurt you. Some men would rather control the distance than risk the pain. Imagine carrying scars from relationships that broke your trust. Imagine giving everything to someone who eventually walked away. Imagine believing you would never let another person get that close again. Then suddenly you meet someone who makes all those promises impossible to keep. That's terrifying, because now you're not just attracted, you're emotionally invested. And emotional investment means uncertainty. What if she leaves too? What if I give everything again? What if I become dependent on someone who decides I'm not enough? Those questions don't always come out in words. They come out in behavior. He becomes quieter. He replies slower. He starts acting inconsistent, not because he stopped caring, because he started caring more than he expected. Many women think confidence means a man never gets scared. That's not confidence. That's fantasy. Real confidence exists alongside fear. Even the strongest man can become nervous when someone has the ability to change his life. Sometimes he'll tell himself he needs space to think. Sometimes he'll convince himself that focusing on work is smarter than following his heart. Sometimes he'll believe that if he ignores his feelings long enough, they'll disappear. But feelings don't disappear just because they're ignored. They grow. The more he tries not to think about you, the more your memory follows him. He'll hear a song that reminds him of your laugh. He'll drive past a place where you spent time together. He'll see someone wearing your favorite color. He'll remember something you said weeks ago that suddenly makes perfect sense. And every memory becomes another reminder that his heart isn't listening to his mind. Here's something powerful to remember. Men don't always express love through words first. Sometimes they express it through struggle. The struggle to stay away, the struggle to remain logical, the struggle to protect themselves from feelings that refuse to stay hidden. That's why emotional conflict often looks like emotional distance. The outside tells one story. The inside tells another. You only see the silence. You don't see the conversations he's having with himself. You don't hear him asking whether he's ready for another relationship. You don't hear him questioning if he's good enough for you. You don't hear him wondering whether he can become the man he believes you deserve. Because pride teaches many men to hide uncertainty. Instead of saying, I'm scared, they say nothing. Instead of admitting, I don't know how to handle these feelings, they disappear for a while. Instead of confessing, I care more than I planned, they act like they don't care at all. Ironically, the more important you become, the harder it can be for him to stay emotionally balanced. This doesn't mean every distant man is secretly in love. That's a dangerous assumption. Some people truly lose interest, and their actions make that clear over time. But when a man consistently shows signs of internal conflict, instead of complete indifference, there's a difference worth understanding. Indifference feels empty. Conflict feels confusing. An indifferent man doesn't wrestle with his emotions. A conflicted man does. And confusion often creates mixed signals. One day he's warm. The next day he's distant. One moment he's fully present. The next moment he seems impossible to reach. It feels inconsistent because that's exactly what emotional conflict looks like. Inside, his heart keeps pulling him closer. His fear keeps pushing him away. Every step forward feels dangerous. Every step backward feels lonely. So he stays trapped between desire and self-protection. The hardest truth is this: love doesn't automatically heal fear. Sometimes love exposes it. The moment someone becomes valuable, every insecurity hidden beneath the surface suddenly comes alive. If he believes he's not successful enough, he'll wonder if you'll eventually leave. If he struggles with trust, he'll question every good thing that happens. If he's been betrayed before, he'll prepare himself for betrayal before it even exists. People rarely run from what they hate. They run from what has the power to break them. And when feelings become stronger than control, many men don't know whether to move closer or run farther away. That's where the real battle begins. The battle inside him doesn't happen once. It happens every single day. Every morning he tells himself he'll stop thinking about you. Every evening he realizes he failed. He tries to distract himself with work, friends, goals, or responsibilities. But somehow, your memory keeps finding a way back into his mind. That's the thing about genuine feelings. They don't disappear because they're inconvenient. They don't obey logic. They don't ask for permission. A lot of people believe emotional strength means never feeling overwhelmed. In reality, emotional strength is learning how to face emotions instead of running from them. But many men were never taught that lesson. They were taught to control, suppress, and hide. So when emotions become too powerful, their first instinct isn't to communicate. It's to retreat. From the outside, retreat looks like rejection. From the inside, it often feels like survival. He's trying to regain control over thoughts that no longer belong to him. He hates the fact that one person can affect his mood so deeply. He doesn't like checking his phone, hoping your name appears. He doesn't like wondering what you're doing or who you're spending time with. Those feelings make him feel exposed. And for someone who spent years believing that vulnerability equals weakness, exposure feels dangerous. That's why you may notice something strange. The harder he tries to convince himself that he doesn't care, the more his actions quietly betray the truth. He notices little things about you that others miss. He remembers conversations you forgot. He pays attention even when he acts distracted. He watches from a distance when he thinks no one is looking. Not because he's obsessed, because his heart has already decided you're important, even if his mind hasn't accepted it yet. Here's something people rarely talk about. Love isn't just about attraction. It's about responsibility. The moment a man realizes that his decisions could impact someone he truly cares about, the weight becomes heavier. Suddenly, this isn't just about enjoying someone's company. It's about wondering whether he can provide peace instead of pain, whether he can protect instead of disappoint, whether he's ready for the kind of commitment real love requires. Those questions can become overwhelming. Instead of risking failure, some men delay the decision altogether. They think, maybe I should wait until my career is better. Maybe I should fix myself first. Maybe she'll be happier without my problems. At first, those thoughts sound responsible. But sometimes they're simply fear wearing the mask of logic because perfection never arrives. No one reaches a moment where life becomes completely organized, emotions become perfectly stable, and every insecurity disappears. If someone waits for that day before loving another person, they'll spend a lifetime waiting, yet fear is convincing. Fear always promises that tomorrow will be safer than today. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Before he realizes it, valuable time has slipped away. Meanwhile, you're left wondering why someone who seemed so interested suddenly became so difficult to understand. This is why patience and self-respect must always exist together. Patience without self-respect becomes waiting forever. Self-respect without patience becomes walking away from everyone too quickly. Wisdom is knowing the difference. A woman should never lose herself trying to decode every silent moment. Your value doesn't increase because someone finally chooses to express what they feel. Your value was already there before they recognized it. Too many people spend years believing they must earn love by sacrificing themselves. They become smaller to make someone else comfortable. They ignore their own needs, hoping another person will appreciate their loyalty. But healthy love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. Real love grows when two whole people meet, not when one person disappears trying to keep the other. Ironically, that's exactly what often forces a conflicted man to face his feelings. When he realizes you're not chasing him, when he notices you're continuing your life, when he sees your confidence doesn't depend on his attention, something shifts inside him. Not because you've played a game, because you've shown him that your life has purpose beyond his approval. Confidence is magnetic, neediness is exhausting. A man who is battling his own emotions doesn't suddenly find clarity because someone pressures him. Pressure usually makes fear louder. But seeing someone carry themselves with peace, dignity, and emotional stability often challenges him in a different way. He starts asking himself difficult questions. Why am I running? What am I actually afraid of? If she's this genuine, why am I creating distance instead of connection? Those questions don't always produce immediate action. Growth rarely happens overnight. Sometimes a man has to confront years of emotional habits before he can become the partner he wants to be. That's why maturity matters more than chemistry. Chemistry can bring two people together. Maturity keeps them together. Without emotional maturity, attraction turns into confusion. Without communication, assumptions replace truth. Without courage, opportunities become regrets. Many relationships don't end because there wasn't enough love. They end because there wasn't enough honesty. People waited for the other person to magically understand what they never expressed. They expected minds to be read instead of hearts to be opened. Silence became louder than conversation. Fear became stronger than hope. And two people who cared deeply slowly drifted apart, not because love disappeared, but because neither one knew how to protect it. Think about how many lives have been changed by one conversation that never happened. One apology never spoken, one confession never made, one "I miss you" trapped behind pride. One "I'm scared" hidden beneath a smile. Sometimes the greatest distance between two people isn't measured in miles. It's measured in words that remain unspoken. This is why emotional courage is so rare. Anyone can pretend not to care. Anyone can build walls. Anyone can walk away before things become serious. But it takes real strength to admit, "You matter to me." That sentence sounds simple, Yet for someone carrying years of disappointment, rejection, or heartbreak, those 5 words can feel heavier than lifting a mountain. The truth is, people often mistake emotional walls for emotional power. They're not the same thing. A wall keeps everyone out. Strength allows the right people in. The strongest heart isn't the one that never gets hurt. It's the one that continues to love without allowing fear to become its master. If he's truly fighting feelings he can't control, eventually he'll reach a crossroads. He can continue hiding until the opportunity disappears. Or he can accept that every meaningful relationship requires risk, because there is no version of love that comes with guaranteed safety. There is only trust. There is only faith. There is only the decision to be brave enough to care. And every man who truly grows eventually realizes something important. The pain of rejection is temporary. The pain of wondering what if can last for years. That's when the battle inside him begins to change. He stops fighting his feelings and starts questioning the fear that created the fight in the first place. The moment that shift begins, everything changes. Not all at once. Not like a movie where one dramatic scene fixes everything. Real transformation is quieter than that. It begins with honesty. A man starts realizing that the person exhausting him isn't you. It's the version of himself that keeps running from what he truly wants. For so long, he believed distance would protect him. Instead, distance only made him lonelier. He believed silence would give him peace. Instead, silence became louder than any conversation he was avoiding. He believed ignoring his emotions would make them disappear. Instead, every day without you made him realize how impossible it was to silence a heart that had already chosen. That's the strange thing about real feelings. Time doesn't always weaken them. Sometimes time reveals them. When the excitement fades, when distractions lose their power, when life becomes quiet again, the truth has nowhere left to hide. He begins remembering the little things. The way you listened without interrupting. The way you celebrated his victories, even the small ones. The way you believed in him when he doubted himself. The kindness you showed when you didn't have to. Those memories don't scream, they whisper. And whispers have a way of staying longer than noise. Many people chase excitement, but deep down, what every healthy heart longs for is peace. Real connection isn't built only on butterflies or constant excitement. It's built on feeling understood, feeling accepted, feeling safe enough to be yourself without pretending. When a man realizes he found that with someone, losing it becomes frightening. Not because he can't meet someone else, because he knows it's rare to meet someone who makes life feel lighter instead of heavier. The world teaches people to chase perfection, perfect looks, perfect timing, perfect relationships. But life keeps proving that perfection isn't what changes us. Authenticity does. The people who leave the deepest impact are rarely perfect. They're simply real. They show up, they listen, they care. And in a world full of temporary attention, genuine care feels unforgettable. That's why emotional connection is so powerful. Physical attraction may catch someone's attention. Character keeps it. Beauty can make someone look. Peace makes someone stay. A man may admire many women, but the woman who brings calm into his chaotic world becomes impossible to replace. That doesn't mean relationships become easy. It means they're worth fighting for. Every lasting relationship faces misunderstandings. Every couple experiences moments of doubt. Every person carries fears that don't disappear overnight. The difference isn't the absence of problems. The difference is whether two people choose growth over ego. Ego says, let them come to me. Love says, let's fix this together. Ego keeps score. Love looks for solutions. Ego wants to win arguments. Love wants to protect the relationship. Unfortunately, pride has destroyed more relationships than lack of affection ever could. Pride convinces people that apologizing makes them weak. It tells them that expressing emotions gives someone else Too much power. It whispers that waiting is safer than speaking, but pride never tells you the price you'll pay. The price is missed opportunities. The price is watching someone slowly become a memory. The price is realizing too late that the person you refused to fight for is now building a peaceful life without you. Regret is one of life's heaviest emotions because it cannot change the past. You can rewrite your habits. You can rebuild your confidence. You can recover financially, but yesterday never comes back. That's why emotionally mature people don't wait forever to express appreciation. They understand that love should never be assumed. Gratitude should never be delayed. Respect should never be optional. Because every day someone chooses to stay in your life is a gift, not a guarantee. If a man truly cares, eventually he must stop expecting life to read his heart. People can't respond to feelings they never hear. Communication is uncomfortable, but misunderstanding is even more painful. Many men reach a point where they realize they've spent years trying to appear strong while secretly feeling exhausted. Exhausted from pretending. Exhausted from carrying emotions alone. Exhausted from acting like nothing affects them. Then something remarkable happens. They stop trying to impress everyone. They start trying to become emotionally honest. And honesty changes everything. Because once a man accepts that vulnerability isn't weakness, he discovers a freedom he never knew existed. He no longer feels trapped by his own image. He doesn't need to prove he's unbreakable. He understands that courage isn't pretending nothing hurts. Courage is admitting what matters. That's why emotionally healthy men don't avoid difficult conversations forever. They know discomfort lasts for a moment. Silence can last a lifetime. If he's fighting feelings he can't control, there will come a day when pretending becomes more painful than telling the truth. The mask gets too heavy. The distance becomes too lonely. The unanswered questions become impossible to ignore. And that's when actions begin replacing excuses. Not because someone forced him, because his own heart finally became louder than his fear. But here's something every woman should remember. His emotional journey is his responsibility, not yours. You can inspire someone. You can encourage someone. You can support someone. But you cannot heal someone who refuses to face themselves. Too many people spend years believing they can love another person into becoming emotionally available. Love is powerful, but it cannot replace personal growth. No amount of patience can do the inner work that someone else keeps avoiding. That's why your responsibility is different. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, protect your confidence, protect your standards. Never confuse understanding someone's struggle with accepting treatment that damages your self-worth. Compassion and boundaries belong together. You can understand why someone is afraid without accepting endless confusion. You can appreciate someone's past while still expecting maturity in the present. Healthy love never asks you to abandon your dignity. It asks both people to grow. Real love isn't one person carrying the relationship while the other carries excuses. It's two people choosing each other again and again, especially when it's difficult. Because feelings alone are never enough. Commitment matters. Consistency matters. Respect matters. Stops matter. Words create hope. Stops create trust. And trust is the foundation every lasting relationship stands upon. When a man finally stops fighting his own emotions, he doesn't just become a better partner. He becomes a better version of himself. He learns that strength isn't measured by how well he hides. It's measured by how honestly he lives. He learns that protecting his heart by locking everyone out doesn't prevent pain. It only prevents connection. And a life without meaningful connection is a lonely victory. Success feels different when there's no one meaningful to share it with. Achievements become quieter. Celebrations become shorter. Because at the end of the day, people rarely remember the things they owned. They remember the people who made life meaningful. That's when he finally understands the lesson he spent so long resisting. The greatest risk was never loving someone. The greatest risk was allowing fear to convince him that love wasn't worth the chance. Sometimes life gives people a second chance. Sometimes it doesn't. That's why waiting for the perfect moment is one of the biggest mistakes anyone can make. Perfect moments are rare. Meaningful are created by people who decide that fear will no longer control their future. A man who has spent months or even years fighting his feelings eventually reaches a point where he asks himself one life-changing question. If I keep protecting my heart this way, what am I actually protecting it for? Because a heart that never risks being hurt also never experiences the depth of real love. And that realization changes everything. He begins to understand that courage isn't about having no fear. Courage is choosing what matters more than fear. He realizes that every wall he built was designed to keep pain out, but those same walls also kept joy from getting in. He starts seeing relationships differently. He stops asking, how do I avoid getting hurt? And starts asking, how do I become someone capable of loving well? That single shift changes his life, because now his focus isn't on escaping emotions. It's on growing through them. He learns that emotional maturity isn't pretending to have all the answers. It's being willing to have honest conversations even when they're uncomfortable. It's saying, I was wrong. It's saying, I miss you. It's saying, I'm afraid. It's saying, you matter to me. Those words may seem simple, but they have the power to rebuild what pride nearly destroyed. And if he truly values you, his actions will begin reflecting those words, not for one day, not for one emotional moment, consistently, because consistency is where real love proves itself. Anyone can make promises when emotions are high. Anyone can speak beautifully when they're afraid of losing someone. But character isn't revealed in emotional speeches. It's revealed in daily choices. It's revealed in showing up, in keeping promises, in respecting boundaries, in communicating instead of disappearing, in choosing honesty over convenience. That's the difference between temporary emotion and lasting commitment. A mature man doesn't expect trust simply because he asks for it. He earns it one decision at a time, one honest conversation at a time, one act of consistency at a time. And as trust grows, fear slowly loses its grip, not because life becomes perfect, but because both people begin believing that the relationship is stronger than the challenges they face. That's what healthy love looks like. It's not loud every day. It doesn't need constant drama to prove it's real. It feels steady. It feels secure. It feels like two people choosing peace over power struggles. Far too many relationships confuse intensity with love, constant chasing, uncertainty, constant emotional highs and lows. That isn't always passion. Sometimes it's simply instability. Real love doesn't leave you questioning your worth every day. It doesn't require endless guessing games. It doesn't thrive on confusion. Real love creates clarity. It creates safety. It creates confidence. When someone genuinely wants to build a future with you, they don't make you feel like you're constantly competing for a place in their life. They make room for you, not only in their schedule, but in their plans, in their priorities, in their heart. And that's the standard everyone deserves. Never lower your value because someone else hasn't figured out theirs. Never convince yourself that breadcrumbs are enough when you're worthy of a full meal. Never believe that your love has to be earned by suffering. Healthy relationships aren't built on emotional exhaustion. They're built on mutual effort. If a man is truly fighting feelings he can't control, eventually those feelings must lead him toward responsibility, not endless excuses. Because feelings without action change nothing. Intentions without effort build nothing. Potential without growth becomes wasted opportunity. At the same time, remember this. Your happiness cannot depend on whether another person wins their internal battle. If they do, wonderful. If they don't, your life must continue. Your dreams still matter. Your purpose still matters. Your peace still matters. The strongest version of you isn't the one who waits forever, hoping someone changes. It's the one who continues becoming the best version of yourself, regardless of who stays or leaves. Because confidence isn't built through someone's approval. It's built through self-respect. When you know your worth, you stop chasing people who keep running. You stop begging for clarity from someone committed to confusion. You stop sacrificing your peace to earn temporary attention. Instead, you become the kind of person who attracts healthy love because you've learned to live a healthy life. That's the greatest lesson of all. Love should add to your life, not become your entire identity. The healthiest relationships are formed by two people who already know who they are. Two people who choose each other freely, not from desperation, not from loneliness, but from genuine appreciation. And if a man finally stops running from the feelings he can't control, he'll discover something beautiful. Love was never his enemy. Fear was. The woman who cared about him was never the problem. The stories he kept telling himself were the distance he created never protected him. It only delayed the happiness he was searching for, because the greatest relationships aren't built by perfect people. They're built by people willing to grow, people willing to communicate, people willing to forgive, people willing to become better than they were yesterday. So if you're watching this today, remember one truth that can change the way you see relationships forever. Never judge someone's heart only by a single moment of silence. But never ignore a pattern of actions either. Understand the difference between someone who is growing and someone who is simply making excuses. Offer compassion, but never abandon your standards. Believe in love, but never lose yourself trying to force it. And above all, remember this: the right person won't just feel something for you. They'll choose you. They'll respect you. They'll communicate with you. They'll grow with you. Because real love isn't measured by hidden feelings. It's measured by the courage to turn those feelings into consistent action. When fear finally loses its voice, love no longer has to hide. And that's the moment two hearts stop fighting themselves and finally start building a future together.